I mean, this plant has been around for thousands of years. I actually found an out-of-print book that I was only able to get like on a Kindle. And some of the stuff I wasn't even understanding what they were talking about. It was such an old book, but they used every bit of the plant for cleaning the blood. They would distill it and use the bark, which now they say don't use the bark, but they were using the bark. They used the flower, they used the leaf, they used the berry. So we're more used to the berry nowadays. There's actually some studies being done about the berry. It's also great. It's used in burn centers, so it's great for like sunburns and any kind of burns. So we have a healing salve that we use the leaf and the flower is great for your skin, for respiratory. I mean, it's just a great plant.
Welcome to Stress-Free Solutions with Sarah. I'm your host, Sarah Elise, a stress management and fitness coach, advocating the world to trust their gut more often. I discuss various ways to manage stress and share personal stories of guest experts who have gone through the same stressors as all of you at home. Hey there, super moms of the universe. Let's play a game called hide and seek. No, not with your kids or that mysteriously vanishing left sock. It's time to seek out you in the everyday hide and seek of life. Introducing Mastering the Soul System, a 12-week journey to reclaim your time and energy. This course is your gateway to finding balance, energy, and joy in every aspect of your bustling life. Picture this, 12 weeks where the words mom and mayhem don't always go together. Rediscover yourself with every breath in our Soulful Mind Weeks. Sing out loud in the shower or car. Off-key is absolutely fine. And dance during our Soulful Body sessions. And embrace the quiet whispers of your heart in our Soulful Spirit adventures. It's about time your spirit got a front row seat, don't you think? Join us on this journey. Embrace the harmony between being a dedicated mom and your personal aspirations. Mastering the soul system, because darling, in the noise, find your silence. And maybe, just maybe, a bit of that elusive thing called me time. You deserve to thrive, not just survive. So come on, slide into our world at www.livewellenhanceyou.com/soul system. Your journey back to you starts now.
Emilia Rizzuto is a certified nutrition consultant living in St. Louis, Missouri with her husband, 2 teenagers, and 2 pups. She is the founder and CEO of all things Elderberry and is leading the way in boosting the American elderberry industry. Emilia focuses on making products that support the land, community, and our health. She has grown all things elderberry from her stove to local farmers markets and is now on shelves in regional retail chains. She has managed every aspect from farming to product development. Though Emilia went to fashion school, she got much of her business skills from producing photo shoots for the first decade of her career. I have gotten to know Emilia the last 6 months, and she is just an incredible person doing wonderful things for our health. So with that, Emilia, welcome to Stress-Free Solutions.
Hi, thank you. It's so great to be here. Yes, we've gotten to know each other. It's been wonderful.
Yeah, I would love to hear your journey with elderberry. Like, why elderberry? How did that come into your life?
Well, yeah, you know what? If you would have asked me like, I don't know, 15 years ago, I would have said I would have never seen it. Wouldn't have seen it coming. It was a complete accident. I was diagnosed with Crohn's when I was a kid and 15 years old, so a teenager.
Wow.
And I spent years just not really worrying about it. Maybe I just took a ton of medications. I didn't try to heal. I didn't try to treat, just, manage symptoms. And then as I got older and started having children and started really trying to heal my body and be a better mom and, do better, I went back to school for nutrition and started working with different plants and, was cooking for myself more and looking into healing. And I was specifically struggling with my immune system because I was on so many like immunosuppressant medications and steroids for the Crohn's. My immune system was just destroyed. So I needed something other than the flu shot because I'm one of the people that react to the flu shot. Couldn't do a flu shot. I would get really sick from a flu shot.
Oh,
And so after doing some research, I discovered elderberries. There's a lot of studies on PubMed.com that you can find, and a lot of anecdotal research. And, just from history, we've learned that elderberries have incredible immune support.
that's incredible. Like, I had no idea about elderberry, honestly, until I was starting to try to get pregnant. And someone was telling me about how elderberry really helps, improve your immune system.
Yep.
And there was a lot of things that I was working on. I just found that to be an interesting resource. And I did feel better afterwards. But something I found was there's sometimes added sugar to these products. I had no idea. So, what makes all things elderberry different from other products you've seen on the market?
Absolutely. So this is actually one of the reasons why I started making my own syrup, because you can find syrup at the store, pretty much any store you go into. There's lots of different elderberry syrup. A lot of them, they're brought in from Europe. It's also an unregulated industry. They have done studies and found that some of that is actually rice bran. They cut the elderberry with rice bran because it gives it that kind of same coloring. So you're not actually getting all elderberry. And they add like glucose syrup, or they can add corn syrup, or, other things like that. And I didn't want anything like that. So that's why I started making my own. So at All Things Elderberry, we use the same recipe that I started with, fresh juice. So we're able to source Missouri berries for the elixir. And so we just use fresh juice off farms. Yeah. So that's the elixir is like our syrup version. We add fresh organic like ginger, organic Ceylon cinnamon, organic whole clove, and local raw honey. So I have a beekeeper that I work with. He has about 200 hives not far from my house, about 20-minute drive. And I use his honey for that. So I know not only am I using honey, I'm using real honey, which also like honey can come from China, honey can come from, you don't always know what you're getting. So that makes the elixir so different.
So it must have been a really cool experience for you to meet some of the farmers and the beekeepers. How did you go and approach them? Because they have their own products. I know they want to work with other like-minded individuals, but what was the process like?
So actually, because I'm in Missouri, I think that's what made it easier for me. When I first started making it, I actually started sourcing berries from this company that sources from other farms and then delivers to restaurants.
Oh,
So I was working with that guy first, and then somebody I found on Facebook, actually, somebody was like, "Oh, my grandparents are growing some elderberries." So you kind of just start to, and then they had about an acre. So as I was growing, I was starting to meet more people. And then once you get into the world, I would go to like a symposium, and then there'd be like a bunch of elderberry farmers there. And Missouri is actually leading the way in commercial farming. So it's very easy for me to find a bunch of farmers here. There's like, we source from 15 different farms that are about an hour from my house. They're all family farms that have been converted to elderberry farms. So each farm maybe has 2-3 acres, which is a lot of elderberries because you get about 10 pounds of berries from one bush. Honey was a little bit harder to find because a lot of beekeepers, they don't want to sell you as much honey as I need. So they want to bottle it themselves and sell it themselves. And they don't have that many hives. And again, this was just word of mouth. Someone said, the local beekeeper that I was working with, once I got too big, said, "You know what? I want to keep the honey for myself, but I know this guy." And I got lucky. And once we started working together, he said, "Forget it, I'll just give you all my honey." And I was like,
that's incredible. That's
yeah.
really cool. Before elderberry and all of that, you said you were a photographer for nearly a decade.
No, I actually produced photo shoots.
Produced photo shoots for different companies. I'm now remembering this will be
Yeah, I mostly worked in-house for a catalog, like a fashion catalog.
cool. So I'm going to go back just a little bit. Sarah added it right there. Okay. So Emilia, tell me about your decade-long career going and actually being on site for photo shoots and editing.
It was a lot of fun, but it was also very stressful. As a producer, you're responsible for the entire production. So I worked at a company called Soft Surroundings. They had a lot of stores and they were like a big catalog company. And we had 4 photo shoots a year. So basically, like I would go ahead and scout locations, and we shot in multiple $1 million estates. They were gorgeous, big mansions. So I'd go scout locations and cast models like in New York or LA and Miami. We would hold castings and then find photographers, hair, makeup stylists, and then come back home and present everything to my boss, and they'd pick what they want to do, and then I'd have to organize everything. So then you're kind of like a travel agent, like
Yeah.
booking everyone flight, getting everybody there, and then we'd go on location and we'd be there for almost a month.
Wow.
It was a lot. So, but we were in beautiful places like Santa Barbara and Miami. Like we were always like Dallas, we did a lot. They have a great production city there. So we were traveling a lot. And it was very stressful because you get there and like you don't know what's going to happen. You're using somebody else's home. We're like emptying out their house of all their furniture, everything they own, bringing in our own stuff. And they agree to it. But then it's like very dramatic when you have 20 people in your house and everyone's moving your stuff. And I was kind of the
Yeah.
one responsible for keeping everybody cool, like making sure that like, they're not gonna freak out, or if they do, like, and then making sure everything's rebuilt again, that the house looks just like it did before we got there, and
Gosh,
buying crew and catering and flights and models coming in and out. So
that's insane.
it was insane. And I was like in my 20s
Yeah. And that's a lot of responsibility.
and so much stress. It was so stressful, and I wasn't eating well, and I wasn't taking care of myself, and probably it's some of the unhealthiest years of my life.
What would you say back then was like your go-to? Because I have one. Mine was Chipotle.
Over food.
Yeah, for food.
Oh gosh, you know what? I don't even know. We ate so much catering.
Yeah.
We were on the road all the time and eating so much catering, and I think maybe even Hardee's, I guess, if I had to pick one. I was more of like a burger person, but I never really was a big fast food person.
Yeah. Now, I remember when I was actually becoming a fitness professional, I would just always go to Chipotle. And also, I think because of college, that was close by. I was like, this is semi-healthy.
Okay.
You
I
know,
was seeing all like cigarettes and caffeine.
you learn over the
Learn. I mean, yeah, I did it.
Yeah, exactly. So what was it to then take all of those years with that training, also that stress, and put it into your own business? How were
It's
you?
still stressful.
Yeah. But how were
It
you
is
able to transcend, or how were you able to take those ideas and your organizational skills and put it into your business?
I think the most benefit that I have is that I became really good at problem solving. So I feel like my entire job was just problem solving the whole time. It was like something was always going on. Like something broke, somebody's pissed, something is clogged, the plane didn't land, the model is, you know what I mean? It was just constantly problems.
Mhm.
And so now in my own business, I feel like I know that there's going to be problems. You don't freak out all the time. Because if someone doesn't tell you and you're running a business and growing the business and you're the one handling everything, there's always problems. Everything feels so heavy and so dramatic, especially as the company grows.
Mhm.
So I think that's been the big thing. Just like, okay, we're just gonna deal with it. And so it doesn't trip me up as much as maybe it would trip up other people.
Mhm. Being a woman-owned business, has that been difficult too, in terms of getting your stuff into retail and just getting your product out there?
So in some instances, yes, and some no. So I am WBNC certified. So I am 100% women owned. It's like I own the whole company. So I've been able to get the certification. And nowadays, companies are looking for that certification. So sometimes it does help get in the door. And then
Mhm.
other times, like when I'm dealing with kind of like more brokers and distributors, there's mostly men that have known each other for 30 years. And so that's a little bit trickier because I don't know those people. I'm not in that space. So it's been a yes and no. It depends on who I'm talking to.
Yeah. What has been wonderful about owning your own business?
Making my own schedule has been amazing because, as you know, like kids and life and animals and I
Mhm.
just, we have no family here. We moved to St. Louis for my husband's job. And so everybody's still on the East Coast. And just raising kids without having any help at all is hard. And so it's been great being flexible. I can take my computer and work wherever I need to go. So that's been amazing.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
What compels you to do what you do?
Huh. Well, I guess, it's funny. Like, I never imagined that I would start this company, but I sometimes feel like the universe just drops stuff in your lap and you have to take it and go. We get all these opportunities in life, and I just feel like this was something that was just a total out of the blue opportunity. I could never imagine I would do this. And so I feel like that keeps me motivated too. Every time we go a little further and meet new people, and I hear crazy stories of like how much the elixirs helped them or how it helped their child. And I remember why I started it, why this even happened in the first place. And every time I'm like, oh, do I need to do this? Like it's so, it's so much work. It's so hard. It's like, oh, so much stress. Something always happens where someone will send me a message and be like, oh my God, I just had to tell you this crazy story that happened to our family. And my kid was so sick and now they're not sick, just whatever it is. There's always something just when you feel like you're ready to like throw in the towel.
Yeah. Now I have a lot of mamas that either just had a kid or their kids are in, a lot of the kids are in school now. So there's a lot of tendency for their kids to get sick or for them to get sick. Would you say elderberry is kind of a good way for self-care for
The best.
Okay.
Yeah, it is the best. And you know what we've noticed? I've been doing this now for business for about 5, 6 years, but before 2 years, even prior to that, just kind of selling it locally around town, like out of my house. And I've met thousands of customers. We've talked to so many people that weren't even taking our product, that taking other products, just about elderberry in general. And the consistency is so key. So if you take a tablespoon once in a blue moon, it's not the same thing. But if you are consistent with any elderberry product, it just strengthens your system. We've seen it actually break cycles of sinus infections and chronic like bronchitis infections, kiddos that are constantly in and out of sickness that just can't catch a break, that catch everything that comes through. Consistent use of elderberry breaks them from that cycle.
Mm.
So then they just build up their immune system so that as they move forward, they don't have that anymore. So I think it's an incredible plant. It's been around for thousands of years and yeah, it's the best.
Right. I think that's probably what blew my mind the most. I didn't realize that this has been around for a long time. I would like, oh, it's just a new craze, but it's not.
No. Hippocrates, the father of medicine, said elderberry is medicine chest. I mean, this plant has been around for thousands of years. I actually found an out of print book that I was only able to get like on a Kindle. And some of the stuff I wasn't even understanding what they were talking about. It was such an old book, but they used every bit of the plant for cleaning the blood. They would distill it and use the bark, which now they say don't use the bark, but they were using the bark. They use the flower, they use the leaf, they use the berry. So we're more used to the berry nowadays. There's actually some studies being done about the berry, but the leaf is also great. It's used in burn centers, so it's great for like sunburns and any kind of burns. So we have a healing salve that we use the leaf and the flower is great for your skin, for respiratory. I mean, it's just a great plant.
And that's something you guys sell now too.
Yeah.
That's awesome. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Man, I have to do a more of a deep dive.
Yeah, it's great for sunburns if you go on vacation with the family or you're in Florida, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So any sunburns, anything. It's amazing now. I used to travel with like aloe and Neosporin. Now I just take this little tin with me and it's thrown in your carry-on and it's great.
And so you just put it on the infected or not infected?
A burn.
Yeah.
Burn. Cuts, scrapes, bruises, bug bites.
Oh, wow. Awesome. I get bug bites a lot. They just love my blood. So that's really good to know.
I'm like that too. We're sweet.
Super sweet. Delicious. Elderberry sweet. So, big question. When it comes to your family, and this is always the hardest to explain, I feel, to people that aren't entrepreneurs. It's finding balance, but also making sure that everyone is in support of what you do and understands to some extent what you do. How do you communicate with your family about your business and that it's just as important as what dad does? That sounds like such a lofty question, but I know a lot of women who have their own businesses are going through this. And I wanted to ask you this during Women's Month.
It's definitely harder, I would say. I'm very lucky. I have an awesome who is supportive and has seen the company grow and how hard I work. And so he helps out a lot, without any resentment, just helps cook whatever we're doing. And he works a lot too. So I think that's probably the number one thing. If your partner is not supportive, it kind of trickles down from there.
Mm-hmm.
And I also have teenagers now, so they're a little easier. My son's starting to drive. His buddies are starting to drive. So starting to release a little bit of that, like, okay, his friend can take him but it is hard because they have a lot of events and activities and you want to be at everything and you want to drive them everywhere. And be there every night and be there in the morning. And sometimes you can't. Like, we're like in a group together where sometimes we travel and we're gone for a couple of days. And I feel guilty. I feel terrible because they have to get up in the morning, do their own thing. My husband works early, so he's not here. And yeah, you just have to try to manage the guilt. And I try to get them involved too. Like I have them help so they can see. And I try to explain, okay, hopefully one day you guys can get more involved, or just try to involve them as much as I can. I try to be there as much as I can too. And I try really hard to, like after a certain hour, like just don't work. You got to put it away. Or if they have a big thing that's really important to them. So I think as they get older, we're really trying to say, okay, who's got what this weekend? Who's got what going on? Let's prioritize those things and make that person the main character. And I work when I can, just to get it in.
Right. And like you said, you can bring your laptop anywhere. Now, I know your family actually are immigrated here. And what is it like for your family to see you start her own business?
I think they're proud. I mean, my family came from the Soviet Union in the 70s, and I was just a baby. So I wasn't born here. My brother wasn't born here. And my dad was always an entrepreneur. So I don't ever remember him working for anybody. He drove a yellow cab, and then he had like a limo company, and then he had, well, a junkyard. Yeah, just constantly, like, he went from business, like always had businesses. So I never knew anything else in my life. My brother then worked with my dad. It was just, that's what it was in our house. So I just think it's like in my blood. It's how we grew up. So I know they're proud because I think it's different for the girl,
Mm-hmm.
expected for my brother kind of, but for the girl, they're like, oh, wow, you're doing that. So at first it was a little bit of that, like, isn't that hard? Isn't that a lot of time? Isn't that stressful? But, they've seen it grow. They see that it's coming along, and I know they're proud. And they help all the time. Like my parents will fly in. I'm going somewhere in March for a trip, and my parents are going to come in and hang here and help.
That's awesome. That's really cool. Now, before Missouri, where were you guys located?
New York.
New York.
When we immigrated from the Soviet Union, they had to go to Austria and then Italy, and then they landed in the Bronx.
Wow.
So Jewish refugees. So there was an organization that helped them come across, and then they brought them into the Bronx. There was like a Russian ghetto there, and that was it. They were just like, okay, good luck. And so we lived in the Bronx till the 3rd grade, and then I moved upstate New York, like a little bit, like 30 miles north of Manhattan, where I went to high school. And then I went to Manhattan, and I went to the Fashion Institute of Technology for college.
Very cool. What was it like to go to FIT?
It was fun, but one of the things with having Crohn's, right? I didn't want to share bathrooms. I was like, I'm not sharing bathrooms. Like, yeah. And I'm in a different place in my life now. I was not a healthy person back then. But so in New York, I never got to live in a dorm. I was so close. I was only 30 miles outside of the city, so I didn't get dorms. So I lived in an apartment with a friend, and the school was like 6 blocks away. So it was like, and I worked. So it almost felt like I didn't really get that real college life dorm experience. Like I went to school 3 days a week and worked 2 days, and living in the city, you're kind of, so it was cool. There's lots of fun people, and I met my husband around that time, but I don't feel like it was a true college campus experience.
Yeah. Well, also just being in the city, it's completely different too. I went to school in Chicago, and I felt the exact same thing. It's just a different kind of experience. On the weekends, I would be hanging out, singing show tunes and drinking dirty martinis. Like, that's not a typical college experience. In New York, what was something that you really enjoyed doing?
Oh gosh. Because I lived there for so long, and it was just always home, kind of like we went into the city all the time. We didn't really do like touristy stuff. Like I never even went to the Statue of Liberty, you know? Like it was so like at that point, like we did a lot of like clubs, the New York club scene was like crazy.
Yeah.
And so because it was like the college years, like we were in a lot of the club scene, lots of fun. And I don't know, it was so young, and we just kind of like whatever money we had, we just kind of lived in our little orbits. Like in New York, they said you just stay in your like little 8-block radius. So it wasn't like we were going to shows and doing all that kind of stuff. Just hanging out on the block, going to school, going to work, clubbing at night.
That's definitely fun.
It was, yeah. It was fun.
Yeah. I have a lot of friends that moved to New York post college, and visiting them, I was like, it's such a difference in your 20s to 30s.
Oh, huge.
Yeah, huge. And then 30s to 40s as well. So now starting a business in the 40s was probably different than how your mindset would have been in the 20s.
Oh, wouldn't be able to do it.
Well.
Just because I'm also, I think, calmer as a person or not as reactive. I've learned to I'm a lot more chill now, I would say. I was a lot more reactive, probably just from all the stuff I went through, a lot more anger issues, a lot more, maybe resentment or, I don't think I would. And even just like talking to people or leadership skills and being able to pick up a phone, all those things in your 20s where you're still kind of not comfortable. In your 40s, you're more like, meh, just got to do what I got to do.
I have never heard that before, but it's true. Like you do probably just relax a lot more because you've seen how people react to things. And like you said, you yourself you were reactive in your 20s, probably also though, because you were doing all this crazy work for people.
Yeah.
And
Always
rest. Yeah. What type of advice would you give to someone that is a woman starting their own business?
Well, definitely do it. I think it's awesome. And I think just take it day by day, like I really do, because I feel like you never know what's going to come. Sometimes when we have kids or things pop up, like I can have my entire week planned out and then something happens to somebody and you have to drop everything and do that. I would say as long as you're moving forward every single day, like don't stress out too much, Like, yes, things have to be done, but if you don't get everything done, it's okay. There's more important things. So I kind of like learned that was just the best thing to do, especially when you're starting. You're always still like, oh my God, I gotta get all this done. And you know what? Like you look at the day and you stress out, and the weeks, the months, the years go by, like, oh my God, look how much I've done. So look at the bigger picture a little bit too. If the day wasn't amazing, like look at the week and say, okay, it's better.
What would you say adding elderberry to the mix of your day would bring to a person's home?
A good question. So I think a couple things. First of all, everyone's gonna have a better immune system. So you're not all taking turns getting sick, missing work, missing school. I mean, that's the number one thing that's been studied and, we have so much feedback on. But also it's amazing for inflammation. So we've had so many customers with RA or other inflammatory issues that have told us how much it helps them with their pain, which was something I never even expected when I started making the product. And if you have someone with like allergies and sinuses and they're constantly like stuffed here. So it just really helps. We've just noticed that it's helped people not struggle as much during their day, not miss as much of life. So, and ours is delicious. So you don't have to fight with your kids.
I always love to end with this question. How has stress saved your life?
Good question. Well, it's taught me a lot because I think that when you live in chronic stress, you have chronic illness. And having Crohn's disease, I really learned that stress is a major trigger and it's a major trigger for everything. I think stress is the number one thing in life that people don't take as seriously as they should. Heart attack, all the things. I feel like every health issue, stress is the key, is like the number one thing. And so because I needed to learn to manage my stress specifically because I was told by doctors that it is a major trigger for Crohn's, it's led me towards like meditation and towards yoga and towards things that like I needed to learn to manage it. And I'm grateful for all those tools that I have now because I use them all the time and I may have never found them.
I'm so appreciative of your time and all of the information you shared, as well as your story. Because a lot of people want to get to know who's selling them the healthy products. And I love that you really live into elderberry and know everything about it. And I hope the listeners really understand that elderberry has been here for a long time. You guys are just doing it holistically and making sure that product is not full of all that bullshit. So I really appreciate you.
Thank you. I appreciate you letting me share. We say that like the mission of the brand is to bring elderberry back into modern medicine cabinets and kitchens.
I like that.
So thanks for letting me share my story and I hope that your listeners try it out.
No, they definitely should try it out. And you're being so gracious and giving us a discount for the first time to try it out.
Yeah.
So going Solutions 15 and you'll be able to try it out and really enjoy it. It's for the whole family. It's not just for you. You can get your loved one to try it too, and your immune system will be significantly better after using it for a while.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Awesome.
Thanks.
You're welcome. Thank you for coming on. And everyone, remember to share your takeaways. Where can they connect with you?
Our website is allthingselderberry.com, and that's where they can use the coupon code. And I'm at All Things Elderberry for the brand ad on Instagram and Facebook. And then if they just want to see me, I'm at Rizzuto on Instagram.
Everyone, remember to be kind and speak well to yourself on this self-love journey. Take care.
Thanks to Dan Lieber at Beckett Brown Music for the intro and outro music. You can keep in touch with me on Instagram at Sarah Elise Coaching. If you're looking to improve your health and wellness, check out my business, livewellenhanceyou.com. While you're there, join the Live Well Enhance You email list and receive exclusive offers for our wellness programs and events. Until next time, take care.